It was past midnight, and I was the only person still on the clock. I worked late at a place set back off the road, a little cluster of low buildings with a parking lot out front. I'd ordered food to get me through the last hours, the way you do, and I went out to meet the driver when the app said he was close. I stood right under the lot's brightest light, by the doors, where anyone pulling in would see me first. That was the part I thought made me safe, standing in the light, expecting a stranger, because a screen had told me one was coming. His car turned in, and I lifted my hand so he'd see me, and he drove past me. Past the bright doors, past the spot where I was standing waving, all the way to the far back corner of the lot, the dark one by the dumpster, where the light didn't reach. And he parked there, and he turned his headlights off. In an empty lot at midnight, with a customer standing lit up 40 feet away, he chose the one piece of dark in the whole place and put himself in it. I waited for him to get out and bring it over. He didn't. He just sat in the dark car, and after a minute the window came down, and I understood he was waiting for me to come to him. So I told myself the obvious story. He's tired. He's parked weird. It's late. He doesn't want to walk it over. Just go get your food. And I started across the lot toward the dark corner, out of my light and into his, doing exactly the one thing the whole setup was built to make me do. When I got to the window, he didn't hand it to me. He had his phone up, and he was reading off it, slowly, like the words were hard. He said, "I need new friends. Will you be my friend?" Flat, rehearsed, eyes coming up off the screen to watch my face. And I gave the nervous little laugh you give, and I reached for the bag on the seat, and he moved it. Not far, just enough. Just enough that my hand closed on air, and I had to lean in further to reach it. And while I was leaning in, he reached for my hand. Not a grab, slower than that. A reach, fingers out, toward the back of my hand where it rested on his door. I pulled back like I'd touched a stove. And he smiled, like that was fine, like that was a normal thing that had just happened between two people. "What's your number?" he said. Not a question, the way he said it. A next step. I said no. I said it light, the way women learn to say it, soft so it doesn't become a fight. "I'm good, I just want the food, thanks." And he looked at me, and he didn't pass it out the window. He held it. On the far seat, under his hand, the thing I'd paid for, the only reason I'd walked into his dark. And he tipped his head toward the empty passenger side. "Get in," he said. "I give it to you, just get in the car." And that's when the annoyance turned into something colder. The drive past the light, the dark corner, the headlights off, the food held back. None of it was him being tired or rude or bad at the job. The food was the only string he needed to pull. I took a step back from the window. One step, then another, keeping my eyes on him, my hand off the door, and he leaned across the seat, following me with that smile, still holding the bag out now like bait on a line. "Here, come on, come get it, get in." Patient, not angry that I was backing off, just waiting to see if I'd come back, the way a fisherman lets the line go slack and waits for the pull to come to him. I almost went back. I'd paid for it, and saying no felt rude, and the whole world had spent my life teaching me not to make a scene over a feeling. He was counting on every bit of that. On me deciding the wrongness in my gut was me being dramatic, and walking back to the window to take what was mine, and ducking my head down into that car. And then headlights swung into the lot. A coworker coming back for something he'd forgotten. A second car, a second person, a witness. And the driver felt it before I did. His whole body changed. The bag came off the far seat and out the window so fast it nearly fell, shoved at me, take it, take it. And the smile was gone, and the friendly broken English was gone. and the only thing left in his face was a man who needed to not be here anymore. I grabbed the food and I got back from the car, and he didn't say a word. The window went up, the headlights came on, and he pulled out of that dark corner and out of the lot. Not fast, not screeching, smooth, controlled, a man who'd done this before and knew exactly how to leave. My coworker found me standing there shaking with a bag of cold food in my hands, unable to explain, at first, what had even happened. Because nothing had. That was the worst part. Nothing had happened. Yet. I reported him, the app, the police, everything I had. And the only fact that came back to me was the one I can't put down. A week before, 2 miles away, he'd done the same thing to another woman. Parked dark, held her food, leaned out the window. What he'd asked her, while he kept her food just out of reach, was whether she lived alone. He was deactivated, the account went away, and that's the whole of it. No name I ever got, no face I could give anyone. An account switched off, and a man with 2 miles of practice still out there, somewhere, taking orders under a new one. I think about the version where my coworker didn't come back for his keys, where I went back to that window because saying no twice felt like too much, where the food was the last thing I ever held. It would have looked on paper like nothing. A customer who walked over to a parked car. No break-in, no chase. A door I opened myself. In a dark I walked into myself because a screen told me a stranger was supposed to be there. I don't meet drivers in the dark anymore. I make them come into the light, or it sits on the step and I get it when they've gone. People tell me I'm being paranoid about a sandwich. They didn't watch a man turn his headlights off in an empty lot and wait. For 10 years, I'd walked up to cars and answered doors for strangers off a screen, and never once asked who decided I'd be the one standing there alone to do it. After that night, I stopped trusting a thing just because an app told me to expect it. And I sleep fine being the difficult customer. I drove deliveries at night, and you learn fast that most houses tell you who you're about to meet before the door opens. Lights on, a TV flickering, a porch bulb left on for you. That's a normal drop. This one told me nothing, because this one was completely dark. A big house set back off a long drive, way out where the streetlights give up. Not a single light in it, no porch light, no window glow, nothing. The kind of dark that makes you check the address twice, because surely nobody's home. But the order was the order, and the address was the address. So I went up the long drive with my headlights painting the front of this black house. And it looked, honestly, abandoned. Curtains still, no car I could see, that flat, dead look a house gets when no one's lived in it for a while. I figured I'd leave it on the step, take the photo, and go. No contact drop, no need to wake anybody. I just wanted to set it down and get back down that drive. So I got out, quiet, and I carried the bag up to the front door, and the whole time the house just stood there over me, dark and tall and silent. I set the food down on the mat. I lifted my phone to take the photo, and from somewhere off to the side of the house, not the front door I was standing at, I heard a latch. A door opening that I couldn't see. A side door around the dark corner of the house where my headlights didn't reach. A woman came around the corner of the house out of that side door. Older, 60s maybe, in a long robe, slippers, like she'd been up. And the first thing that was wrong was that she came out the side. Not the front, where her food was, where the driveway was, where a normal person comes out to wave at the delivery. She came out the dark side of the house, and she was already moving toward me before I'd even straightened up. One hand raised, not waving hello, waving me back. Come here, come back. I did the polite thing. I said, "It's right here on the step, ma'am." You're all set. Have a good night." And I started backing toward my car. And she kept coming. Past her own food on the mat without a glance at it, straight across the dark yard toward me, faster than the robe and slippers should have let her move. And she didn't stop at a normal distance. She came right up to the car as I got in, right up to the driver's window, and she put her hand flat on the glass. I had the window cracked and I couldn't get it up before she was already speaking. And her voice was the thing I still hear. Slow, stretched, soft in a way that was trying very hard to be warm and landed nowhere near it. She put her other hand on my side mirror, holding the car, holding me there, and she leaned down to the gap in the window, and she said, "Aren't you gonna come inside?" Drawing the word out long, like a hand pulling. I said, "No thank you, I've got other deliveries. I have to go." Polite, fast, my hand already on the gear shift. And she didn't take it. She didn't step back, didn't nod, didn't do any of the things a person does when you decline. She just smiled wider and said it again, softer, more certain. "Come inside." And her eyes this close, in the glow off my dash, there was nothing behind them. No warmth, no embarrassment, no reading of my face. Just a flat, patient, blank wanting, fixed on getting me out of the car and through her door. And then she said the word that turned my stomach to water. She leaned in another inch, both hands on the car now, and she said it gently, like an invitation to something nice. "Come inside. With us. With us. Not with me. With us." There was somebody else in that black, silent, lightless house. Somebody she hadn't mentioned, that I couldn't see, that hadn't come out, sitting in there in the dark, while she stood at my window working to bring me in. Everything in me went very quiet and very clear. A dark house that looked empty, a side door, a hand on my car, a stretched out voice that wouldn't take no. Whatever was inside that door she kept pointing me at, she wanted me through it, and she was not going to be the one who explained why. I said, loud and flat, "I have to go now," and I put the car in reverse, and her hand stayed on it a half second too long, dragging, like she'd hold the car back by the mirror if she could. And then they came off, and I was moving. Backing down that long black drive far too fast, watching her the whole way in my headlights. And she didn't chase. She didn't shout. She just stood there in the middle of the dark yard in her robe, hands at her sides now, smiling and staring and watching me go. I backed all the way down the drive without turning around because I didn't want her out of my sight. This little robed shape getting smaller and smaller in the headlights, never moving, never stopping smiling, until the drive curved and the trees took her and the black house with her. And the last thing the headlights caught behind her was that house, still dark, every window. Whoever the us was, they'd stayed inside the whole time, in the dark, and let her do the asking. I got down the road and pulled over. My hands were shaking too hard to hold the wheel. And I sat there trying to make it harmless, the way you do. A lost old lady, wanted company, but it broke on the same thing every time. The house was dark and looked empty, and she was up, dressed, at the door the second I pulled in. And she didn't say me, she said us. What scared me wasn't how wrong she was. It was how badly I'd wanted to be polite to her, roll the window down, go in for a minute so she wouldn't feel turned away. That's the handle she had her hand on, not a lock. My manners. I still drive. I still meet strangers at their doors in the dark. But something changed at the bottom of that drive. Now when a house is too dark, when the wrong door opens, when a voice is too soft and won't let a no land, I don't soften it, I don't step closer to be nice. I leave it on the step and I go. I drive a forklift days now mostly, but when I do take a night run, I never cross a threshold I can't see into. And I never let being polite walk me somewhere my gut already said no. That door stays a stranger's door. A name with no apartment number. A complex I'd never had a single good drop at. 1 in the morning, that was the order on my screen, and I almost didn't take it. I think about that almost every day now. The order was simple. 1 name, a big chain order, the kind that tips well. The address was a unit deep inside a sprawling apartment complex on the edge of town. The kind of place that's all identical buildings and unlit lots and numbers that don't run in any order that makes sense. You learn those complexes. You learn which ones are alive and which ones are half empty. This one I knew was mostly dead. Half the building's dark, units sitting empty. A place the city had sort of given up on. But the food was hot and the tip was real, so I went. It was the kind of dark where your headlights feel like the only thing keeping the place from closing over you. I wound through the complex looking for the building number, past dumpsters, past dead cars, past windows with no glass in them. And the deeper in I went, the fewer lights there were, until I was driving through buildings where not one window in any of them was lit. No TVs, no porch lights, no people. Just my headlights swinging across dark brick, looking for a person who'd ordered dinner in the middle of all this nothing. I found the building at the very back. The last one, backed up against a tree line, the farthest point from the road, from the entrance, from anyone. If you wanted a spot in that whole complex with no working light and no living soul nearby, this was it. And the unit on the order was upstairs, an exterior staircase, open, going up the side of the building into the black, to a door at the top I couldn't see from the car. I sat there a second with the food on the seat, engine running, looking up at that dark staircase, and something in me did not want to turn the engine off. But you talk yourself into it. That's the job. It's late. The unit's just dark because they're asleep. Plenty of people don't leave a light on. You've done 1,000 of these. Get up there, knock, set it down, leave. But I did not turn the engine off. That was the one instinct I didn't argue down. I left it running and I stepped out into it. And even over the idle, the quiet came in. No traffic, no voices, no dogs. Just my own engine ticking over and all that nothing. And the wind in the tree line behind the building. And somewhere up in the dark, the building waiting. I got the bag and I went up the outside stairs. Concrete steps, a metal rail cold under my hand, the dark getting thicker the higher I went. And at the top there was a short landing and the unit door at the end of it. And I stopped on the second to last step because something about the door was wrong, and it took my eyes a second to land on what. The door wasn't shut. It was standing open, not wide, a few inches, just ajar into a black room. A door left ajar at 1 in the morning, in a unit with no lights, in a building with no one in it. Nobody who orders food leaves their door hanging open into the dark and then goes silent. That's not a person waiting for dinner. I didn't have a word for what it was. I just knew it wasn't that. I did not go to the door, but I'm not proud of how long I stood there arguing with myself, because the job trains it out of you. The order says deliver, the app's clock is running. A real customer's probably just in the bathroom, and if I leave, I eat the cost and maybe a complaint. And who am I to decide a dark door means anything? That's the voice the whole thing relied on. The one that says, go knock anyway. The one that's gotten quieter drivers than me through doors like that one. So I did one thing instead of knocking. I called the number on the order. Standing on that step, food in one hand, phone in the other, watching that open black door. I called the customer. And inside the unit, through that gap in the door, in the dark, I heard a phone start to ring. In an empty apartment with the lights off and the door open, 6 feet from me, the number that placed the order was ringing in the dark. And nobody moved to answer it. A phone ringing in an empty room is the loudest thing I have ever heard. Because it meant the order was real and the customer was not. There was no one up here who wanted food. And I had just called out and announced exactly where I was standing. And in the half second after the ringing stopped, because someone in that dark room reached over and silenced it, I understood the shape of the whole thing. Nobody had followed me here. Nobody had picked me off a street or learned my route. Somebody had sat at a screen, somewhere I'll never know, picked the emptiest door in the city, placed an order to it, and let the app go find them a person. Any person, whoever took the ping. Tonight it was me. I started backing down the stairs, one step at a time, not turning around, keeping my eyes on that open door, the way you back away from a dog that hasn't decided yet. And the door moved, just barely, that few-inch gap widening by an inch more, slow and careful, the way a door moves when a hand is easing it, not the wind. And a piece of the dark inside the room shifted its weight, the deeper black of someone who'd been standing very still, starting finally to come toward the door. I didn't wait to see him. I turned and I went down those stairs faster than I've ever moved. Bag dropped, food everywhere, hand barely catching the cold rail. And I heard the door come open behind me and a fast, heavy step on the landing. Not a voice, not, "Hey, that's mine." Not anything a real customer would call after you. Just feet. Coming. Quick. I hit the bottom and I ran for the car. And this is the part the night turned on. I'd left it running. One thing I did right, left the engine going, door unlocked, nose pointed back out the way I came. Because the dark and the empty and the silence had scared me enough that some animal part of me had set up an escape before I ever climbed those stairs. I threw myself in, hit the locks, and there was a shape coming off the bottom of the staircase into my headlights. Dark clothes, hood, moving fast, reaching the spot my car had been a half second before I dropped it into drive. I drove out of that complex with my heart trying to come up my throat, taking the turns blind, clipping a curb, headlights swinging across all those dead dark buildings, and not one of them lit up. Not one door opened. Nobody came to a window. The whole place stayed asleep, or dead, or whatever it was, and let it happen the way it had been chosen to. By the time I hit the main road, I was shaking so hard I could barely keep it straight, and behind me there was nothing in the mirror at all. No headlights, no one. He didn't need to chase me. He could just wait and order again. I called it in. The order, the address, the open door, the phone in the empty room. Nothing came of it. The order went through a real account to a real address that still exists. No one to arrest. No crime quite finished. Whoever built that doorway and stood in it was never found, never named. The address is still there. The app is still running. I quit nights not long after, not for what almost happened on that staircase, but for what I understood standing on it. The dangerous ones don't come find you anymore. They sit somewhere safe and let a screen send you to them, into the dark, alone, on time. So I read the place before I trust the order. Too dark, too empty, too far back, a door already open. I don't knock, I leave. It's the reason I'm still here to say so, and let's never meet. So before you close the tab, ask yourself the quiet question. Of those three, the dark car you walk to, the door you're coaxed across, the empty address you're sent to, Which one would you have talked yourself into out of politeness, or the clock, or the tip? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe so the next one reaches you before a screen does. And the next time something official looking tells you a stranger is expected, ask who decided you'd be the one to meet him, and in the dark.